Today you're going to glaze or start to glaze your bobblehead. Glaze is different than paint in that it is almost like glass sitting on top of your ceramic project. It's nice and shiny. Some of the glaze can be a little transparent where you can see some of your brush strokes through, so you want to make sure that you coat your project evenly. There are sample tiles on your table in a container with a lid to show you what the colors of the glaze will look like after they are fired. Right now, in liquid form, they look a little bit cloudy. They look different than they will after they're fired. They're also shiny after they are fired. So there are two different blues that you can pick from, and there are the pink and purple, which right now look similar in liquid form. The color is written on the stick and it's also written on the side of the cup, so you want to make sure that both are correct before you add this to your plate so you don't get a surprise when it comes out of the kiln. So the colors that I'm going to use for my bobblehead are the following. I'm going to use white, tan, brown, black, and blue. The white, black, and blue are very minimal amounts for the eyes of my bulldog. The tan and the brown are going to cover the majority of the bulldog. So these can be returned back to the container. You should have paper plate. You have two different size brushes on the tray. There's a water bucket on the tray to clean your brush in between colors. And then there's also a white tray full of all the different colors of glazes. I'm going to start with the base of my bobblehead, and I am going to scoop some brown. Start with a little bit. You can always add more. I'm going to work my way around the edge of my plate. Don't pour it right in the middle. They are a little bit thinner than paint, so they will run and bleed into each other. I'm going to use the big brush to do this. I'm going to coat. If my bobblehead is sitting on my newspaper or brown paper, my job is to coat the entire project everywhere from where it's sitting on the paper to the top. Do not glaze this bottom edge or the inside. That is going to sit on the kiln when I fire it. If there is glaze on it, it'll stick to the shelf. So do not glaze anywhere underneath where it's sitting on the paper. I'm going to start at the bottom, so I'm going to pick it up. Actually, I'm going to leave it on the table so I'm sure that I'm not getting any glaze underneath. And I'm just going to rotate. Your job is to cover the entire white clay. So we added texture. There are some nooks and crannies. So you're going to get a good scoop of glaze and you're going to press the brush. Don't jam the brush in there and ruin the bristles of my brush, but you want to make sure that you cover every visible white piece of clay. The glaze will not bleed and spread out. It's going to stay right where you place it on your project. So coating first the body of my bulldog with dark brown. When you get to an area where two colors are going to meet, you want to be very careful that you have a nice clean edge between those two colors. So I'm going to take my time right here next to the leg and the belly of my bulldog, so I have a nice clean line between the tan and the brown. So take your time. Over here I can brush that on kind of a little more loosely, making sure everything is covered, getting all those visible white spots. Now I'm going to clean my brush. Drag your brush on the bottom of the bucket, on the sides of the bucket, to get all the glaze off of it. If you just swirl it around in the water, all the glaze may not come out. You're also going to take your brush and dry it off to get the water out of it. So to do the tan for the belly, add some tan to my paper plate. Glaze dries pretty quickly, so I can now pick this up and turn it on its side so I can see the belly a little bit better. Just make sure you don't glaze underneath. Nice clean edge between my tan and my brown, getting all those visible white spaces. If you overlap two colors, a light color on top of a dark color may not show up, but a dark color on top of a light one you will see. So there is the base, clean my brush again, of my bobblehead. This is going to go back into the white project bin next to my name tag, and I can move on to the head of my bulldog. And I'm going to start by painting the eyes first, actually. So I'm going to add tiny drop of white. I don't need a lot at all. It's two tiny little eyeballs. little drop of this lighter blue, and just a very tiny little drop of black for pupils, and then my little dots where whiskers would be. Small brush this time. I'm going to pick up that white and put a nice glob of white inside eyeball. Let that dry. You can see I got a little brown here from my finger. I got that on the bottom of the head of my bobblehead. Dip my paper towel in water and I can wipe that off. If it's going to be the color that you're glazing it, don't worry about it, you'll cover it, but you want to make sure that you're not getting any other colors there. I'm going to let the white part of the eyeball dry while I go on to the brown part of the top of my bobblehead. I'm going to use my big brush again, and I need some more brown glaze to do that. So now that I've coated the entire top of my bobblehead with the brown, notice that again, I did not glaze this ring on the bottom or the inside. It's just everything above where it sits on the brown paper. I need to carefully get the face of my bobblehead with this tan color. You can decide if large brush or small brush is better for you to do something like this. Whatever you are comfortable with. Carefully not getting that glaze into the eyeballs, which are still drying a little bit. I'll do the blue and the black here in a minute. And if you need to switch to a different brush in the middle, then switch. I'm going to get the smaller brush going as I get closer to the eyes. Carefully getting around there, and I'm also going to use this tan color on the inside underneath part of the ears. I want that to be a little different, so I left that white. So underneath ears are a little bit different. Now to finish the eyeballs, clean off my brush, dry it off, pick up a small little corner of the brush, a little bit of blue, and I'm just going to put a dot of blue on top of the white and another small dot of blue on top of the white here. Rinse my brush, dry it, even smaller dot of black on top of that blue, smaller dot of black on top of that blue. The blue's wet, so it might be running a little bit. You may need to wait for that to dry. And then with the corner of your brush, very small dots, if you have these. Any other details that you need? I have a couple marks for whiskers, so I'm going to add those as small little black dots. So black, dark colors on top of light colors are going to show up. If you try to layer a light color of glaze on top of a dark one, it may not show up. They may just melt into each other. So my dark whisker spots are okay sitting on top of the tan. So both pieces are done. Both pieces go back into the project tray next to your name tag so that I know which ones they are. When I load the kiln, take them out to grade them. When you are done, your brown paper and paper plate can go into the trash. You can rinse off, clean off your brushes, dry them off, and place them back onto the supply tray.